The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Welcome back. It's Cheryl and Laura at Innovative AAC Solutions, and we are here. Can you believe it, Cheryl, for our final episode for the season?
Season 3, I know. And it does. It seems, if you would have asked me, well, just how many episodes, I'd be like, we're probably about 10 or 12. No, we're like, 10 for each year? This is like 30?
Something like that. I think we're like, in the 30s.
Yeah. So no, it's gone super fast because we definitely have enjoyed doing it. So that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And this is a bittersweet episode for me because this is the last one that we get to share together. Do you want to announce to our listeners your plans?
Well, I have been telling people I'm on my final tour. This is it. I am going to retire officially July 1. So I've got a couple more months ahead of getting all my loose ends tied up. But this is it.
How many more episodes can we pack in?
Yeah.
Well,
so we have to maybe do like some, where is she now things later on.
For sure. Well, what's your last fun find for the listeners?
All right. Well, this is a review. So I want to make sure that if you have been following us, I mentioned a series that Vicki Clark was doing with Practical AAC. So they have released, just earlier the month, they released her third section. So I just want to remind everybody. So let me go there real quick. It's practicalaac.org. And this one is called AAC Implementation Framework Step 3, Take In. So we love Vicki. Vicki was on our podcast. Laura spent time with her at the AAC Chicks. And she, just a wealth of information, but she's doing a very nice job of just putting it all together so you can easily go through here and look at what's going on. And she's got resources and she's got videos. So I want you to make sure you take advantage of that. Remember, Practical AAC is free. It's always there waiting for you to go and explore it. Current, and then you can go back and find stuff in the archives too that you will find helpful. So make sure you look at that.
Yeah, and we've talked about, Vicki and how she does such a good job of zooming in and then zooming out. So she'll give you the big picture, but then she'll give you some practical ways to implement it and kind of be on the boots on the ground running, right?
Yeah.
So funny, you should share a Practical AAC resource, Cheryl, because that's actually my fun find too, but it's a different one.
Okay.
So mine, they just a few days ago, Carol actually posted this 5 free courses to explore for AAC online learning. And I thought that summer was coming up. People may want some free resources, continuing to get those education credits. I can't speak to if any of these are ASHA approved, but these are 5 free. Free is always great, right? You and I love free. Two from Ocali and then 3 from Penn State. So what I like about it is there's one even about alternative access, which is an area where I don't feel like a lot of SLPs and parents and staff get a lot of training in it. We have a switch class here, but we need more. We need more on alternative access.
And it's a constant explorer. You don't just find something and then everything's good. You have to work through it. So I love the fact that it makes you think about all these other things that you can try. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So just a quick little resource for you guys. Definitely check it out. It's on Practical AAC. It was dated April 17th. And then usually I have some very cute little quippy way to introduce our interviewee. I guess before I introduce our interviewee, Cheryl, we should play our final round of where.
And I was going to say, I think the setting that you're in is very appropriate for the fact that.
Oh, good gravy. So yes, I am near a staircase, a very famous staircase. So as if you've been playing along, you know that the first person to email Cheryl or I with my location will win some AAC swag. So we've had some winners, and hopefully they like their stuff. We haven't heard that they don't like
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
well,
I think that it's getting some good use and going to good homes. So yeah, just email Cheryl or I, and let us know where I am this week. And I had a lot of fun playing this one, Cheryl.
yeah,
It's been
yeah.
kind of fun. But yes, so as I switch my background, because I don't want to be looking at this, I just want to introduce our interviewee this week, and she is already here. Cheryl is our interviewee this week. We talk a lot on this podcast and we share a lot, but we don't necessarily get to hear all of the insights and the wonderful wisdom from you. So I know our listeners would love more. And so I just thought I would interview you today.
Well, I appreciate that. And I consider this a, definitely, I refer to myself as the world's oldest SLP. And I think it's a good time, an opportunity to take a little history, a little trip down memory lane as far as AAC goes. Guys, I've been around since the original. Now, I did look, I think, I wasn't using it in the 60s and 70s, but 80s, yeah, yeah, it's been a part of my vernacular and exposure. And again, it was just meant to be because I have been just like I said, opportunities that came up that I got to see stuff, and then it just kind of led to something else. So yeah, no, this is definitely going to be a history lesson as well as, just a little bit of getting to know Cheryl.
Well, I can't wait. I always learn something new about you whenever we talk. So let's get started. Tell our listeners just a little bit about your background, like start at the beginning, way back when.
Well, yeah, I was born in 1960. So, high school, Pattonville. So, always lived in this area. Went to Fontbonne for my undergrad and graduate programs. And while I was at Fontbonne, I had a traineeship at the Veterans Administration, VA hospital down at Jefferson Barracks. And while I was there, I got to, all kinds of good stuff. But one of the things I remember seeing was a huge communication. Well, it was, I don't even know how to describe it now because it was huge screen kind of thing where they would, somebody could like somewhat type on it, but it wasn't like a keyboard thing. It was more of switch activated, called an Express One. So I got to see that. They were using it with some spinal cord injury patients that had lost the ability to communicate verbally. So we were looking at things like that. And after I left, got my degrees, I went to United Cerebral Palsy, and that was where I did my CFY. And I was the first speech pathologist they had hired for the adult program. They had a kids program upstairs and they had an adult program downstairs. And previous to my position, the SLP upstairs with the kids would sometimes have something, she would support a student or client, I should say. But I was the first. So my favorite memories to talk about there were when they interviewed me, they were kind of asking if I had exposure to just communication, AAC. I don't know if we used if we even used that word back then, but anyway. And I was like, well, yeah, I had seen some stuff. I had a little bit of coursework, very small. And they said, well, we've got, some systems and we've got I think we have a special friend. Well, I kind of thought maybe that was a volunteer that was going to help me. No, it was the name of a device. And it was
It's
a
called
pretty
the
good
special
size
friend.
special friend.
Okay.
And it was a pretty good size device. And all it had on the top, it was a smooth top, but it was a keyboard overlay or, not actual keys, but just that membrane kind of surface. And so they said, well, we have that. We've already bought that. And I'm like, okay. And then they had these big Zygo boards. Do you remember seeing those in the
I
history book where it didn't speak? It was just a red light that would flash and it was switch activated. So wherever the red light was on, that's the message they wanted to convey. So whether it was a
And what was
picture
the
or words.
maximum number of messages you could
I'm
have?
kind of visualizing about 16. It
Okay.
was big. We stood it up on the table, but I was thinking the squares were like 3x3 or something. So it was pretty good size. So I had that, made a lot of communication boards. And again, guys, you didn't always have, you didn't have online. You did, and I didn't have a disc. I had a book, a binder with PCS board maker symbols that you would go through, find the ones you wanted, Xerox. We did have copy machines. Well, we had mimeograph too, but anyway, we had copy machines. And then you'd cut out the picture you wanted and you'd glue them onto a you made a board, but the board was to go usually on a individual's lap tray for their wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, I'm working with a lot of adults with cerebral palsy. So they had their chairs, they had their lap trays, and then I was working on making sure they had symbols to point to. So, lots and lots of time. I remember this special friend, because it was a keyboard alphabet, a lot of my individuals weren't literate. They couldn't spell, they couldn't read. So I made overlays to fit on top of that special friend so that they could, point to the pictures. But I would then program. It had like levels, that you could program. So I would program in level 1 kind of stuff, and then you could switch to level 2. So from way back, I'm talking.
You were innovative from the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember way back. And so this is like I graduated in 85, my master's. So this is 86, 87 when I was there. I remember taking Brian, my husband, who was an engineer, to, I think it was called Heath. It was like an electronic component store. It wasn't electronics like, Best Buy. It was where you bought the pieces to make stuff. I remember taking him in there and I'm wanting to figure out if I could make some kind of communication system. And I wasn't thinking voice synthesizers. I was thinking more of the lights and things like that. We never did, but anyway, that was like, my idea of a good time was to go to an electronics store. So worked at UCP, and I was doing everything, feeding, bathrooming, the whole bit. We helping with the buses, the whole bit. So it was you got to know your clients, very well, and they were great people. So then I got the job at St. Luke's Hospital as a speech pathologist. So went there, and I was there for 10 years. And during that time, I was the chief of speech and audiology, and I was assistant director for a while. And again, my AAC connection there was we had a respiratory intensive care unit. So people would, maybe they were respirators or weaning off respirators, but they had their own, like it was only like 4 beds, but special area that we would support. And I was making communication boards or finding communication boards for them. But I remember one gentleman, I don't know, again, just what the situation was, but I reached out to Terry Maddock, who was the PRC consultant at that time, to come and meet this patient and, we could explore some options. So it was at that time that Terry announced that she was leaving St. Louis. Her husband had been transferred to Alabama. So they were going to move, and she was going to stay with PRC, but somebody needed to take, that area. So at first I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about COM to be there. And Terry was like, no, Cheryl, you can learn it. She said, you can do this. And I'm like, okay, I was ready for a change. So after 10 years at the hospital, started with PRC and had a territory of most of Missouri and Southern Illinois. And didn't think at first I was going to like traveling. I liked it. It was nice to be. And I just met so many people, small towns, everybody, it was cool. So did that for 10 years. Well, then, of course, that's the PRC days. And those of you that are my age would remember, devices like the Liberator, the Delta Talker. Then we went to, I actually wrote them all down. My memory hasn't completely left me. Then I went to, then we had the Vanguard, we had, Pathfinder, then Vanguard, then Vantage, then Springboard.
And Vantage Light.
Yes.
Yep.
So what I experienced, what I was a part of was that transition from a paper overlay on the Liberator and the Delta Talker to a combo. Pathfinder was paper overlay, and then it had a dynamic screen at the top, to full dynamic. So like I said,
I forgot about the Pathfinder. We'll have to.
In the early days,
link
our
some
clients learned, it was motor planning. It was, definitely how they learned, but it was, the pictures never changed. It was always the same. So again, appreciate the fact that times have changed.
And so, Cheryl, for someone who may not be familiar with all the PRC products, what would be the primary one they would be familiar with now?
Well, now it's the Accent.
What's the app?
My lamp. Oh, yeah, LAMP. Well, and that's to say, I was a part of that. I was working at PRC when LAMP was being talked about and then was actually produced. So, yeah. So PRC has gone from, way back to now with the accent, and the accent different sizes, and then the lamp can be on the accent or it can be on the app. Yes.
Is
Unity,
PRC
IEP
the
Plus.
longest running AAC company?
It was in those early 60s when they first started getting together. So
maybe that's that's another fun trivia question. If you guys know the oldest and you email us, maybe we'll give you some more swag. Because I don't know. There's a few in my head that I think it might be. But that's
and it's definitely some other companies have come and gone.
right.
So they said there might be ones that started maybe a little before, but yeah, no. And so that's my story too about when I interviewed for PRC, Barry Romick, it's Printke Romick, Barry Romick, and Mr. Printke. Barry picked me up at the airport. So my interview started from the drive from the airport to the headquarters. But again, I was like, yeah, I did the express. You know what? I did. Yes, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So yeah, no, I guess that everything that's changed throughout the years. And back then too, guys, there was two camps. There was PRC and there was Dynavox. And Dynavox, their systems primarily were sentence-based, topic-based, screens that you would go to and kind of have everything organized. And PRC was more the word-based, but also had phrases, also had sentences, also, of course, spelling, but it was the combination of things. So people, usually you had a preference, one camp or the other. So things have definitely become more universal as time has gone by, but that was a difference way back then.
Yeah. And then, so you were a PRC rep.
So I was a PRC rep for 10 years. And about that time, just being on the road wasn't working for us. Aaron had arrived and Brian's health wasn't good, so I needed to be home. So then there was an opening at SSD. So I said, well, let me check it out. So I think they were kind of, thinking maybe she's got a little bit of information she can bring to the table. So yeah, so that's where it's been for the last 15 years.
And fun fact, I don't think our listeners probably know this, but you're one of the reasons that I'm here is because we worked together when I was at the hospital and you had told me about this position opening up. And
yeah, we shared a student and I was like, hey, guess what? So yeah, it happens.
There's history. And how long have you been here now? What's the official total number?
It's 15.
15. Okay. Yeah.
15.
Longest you've been anywhere.
And that's what I was going to say is I had this track going and I thought about 10, I'm like, well, a couple more years. So yeah, that's what it is.
Couldn't get enough of us all.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, you've done a lot for the district. I mean, you've taught classes, you've had so many staff that you've supported. Are there any specific highlights that you can think of as far as your time here?
Well, I just love being with the kids, and I love all the different people, of course, that have come into my life. Some of them are, good friends that I have cherished. That we had that chance to work together. As far as the resources, I'm so appreciative of all the resources we have, how we can do trials and check things out and change things up, and how much I have benefited from learning the professional development that I've been able to participate in. Not just I've presented, but I've also been able to learn so much, and I learn something new every day. So I don't know other places that I could say I would have this much access and colleagues that especially you and I, we can battle about all kinds of things, but it's a learning process. It's something that I am very appreciative of. So SSD has provided all of that for me.
I would second that. We are so fortunate to have access to the knowledge base of the people within our district, as well as the opportunities that our district brings in. It is not something that I've had that luxury of anywhere else, and I feel like we are very blessed to have that. So you mentioned, the technology itself changing from paper to paper and dynamic to dynamic to now just mainstream media and iPads and things like that. What else do you feel like has changed in the realm of AAC? Just knowing what you know, is it just the equipment? Do you feel like there's more to it than that? What has changed?
There's definitely the equipment and the access to it. I swear that they give babies iPhones in the bassinets at the hospital, so they learn swiping. Yeah. So that part, I think again, going way back, primarily my clients that I supported had the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, something physically, was interfering with their ability to communicate. Well, now we've got so many more clients that we are supporting. Of course, autism, we found so much more that we can do to support their communication. English as a second language kiddos, again, that's just, they all benefit from visual supports. Our just the language delays and things, we're more open to all kinds of reasons. Whereas, like I said, it was kind of like this major thing you had to somehow financially get. It was like these devices were expensive, so those were kind of always like way off. Now, because it is so easy, we can help people so much easier, so much better than I think we used to or didn't realize we could. So yeah, every day it's somebody new that's like, oh yeah, that would be good. That would be something we could try. And
Mm.
I don't know if I ever had those thoughts before.
Yeah, I had a young man reach out to me who it sounds like just has difficult moments
Mhm.
of communicating, right? So he can speak and it's typically fine, but if you have moments where you feel inhibited or you can't for whatever reason, whether it be anxiety or sensory
Mhm.
dysregulation, for whatever reason, having an alternative form to communicate that allows you, first of all, to actually say what you're thinking, and then second of all, to decrease some of that anxiety, I'm sure that's
Mhm.
surrounding not being able to talk,
Mhm.
I think is not something we used to even give a second thing about. It's like, oh,
No.
you have words, just use them.
Yeah. No, I feel like we have become more aware and more compassionate than we used to be. So, and I think everybody's, I say, speaking up for themselves better. I think, we have consumers that are saying, hey, this is something that would benefit me. And you're like, oh, okay. So no, that learning curve, that's something that continues.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about, how it's changed so far. Where do you see it going? Like, what are some things you see in our future? Or, how do we move forward? What are some of the big picture?
Um, I'm concerned that they're going to figure out a way to read our minds, and that could be dangerous. I'm anxious to see what kind of filters.
Yeah, how do you toggle it on and off, right? And the brain,
So,
I think that, brain computer interfacing is a thing and they're
uh-huh,
working on it where
uh-huh.
they're figuring out what exactly what you want to say.
So if we are doing that, like I said, we're going to have to just kind of say, oh, she said that. Now, what does she really mean by that? So, but anyway, so I think technology is going to keep up. Um, I I feel like we're at a good point right now, crossroads of opening up our, and when I say our, I'm adults, the ones that are supporting our students or our individuals with AAC, to be more open to connection and to having a relationship rather than request. We've spent many years working on requesting and giving their names and phone numbers and answering a question to make sure they've learned it. So I want us to get away from the work demand, and I want it to be more about just sharing and having fun and having a chance to that back and forth, that reciprocal communication where I do something and you do something. Because when you think about it, I mean, that's what life is about. It's not about the answers or the vocabulary. It's about, did I make you smile, and did you have fun being with me? And I would love for our field our emphasis to be on that, and everything else will come. I don't think it's an either or. I think sometimes we have started with things that have caused our students and our little guys especially to think of it as being a negative. So I'd like to see us regroup and understand our kids better. And that's what, things like GLP. Yeah, I have learned so much this last year, Laura. It's like my brain is just like, oh, but I love it. I'm not complaining. It's just my brain is definitely being stretched, but it's because I just never thought about things that way. And now when I do, it's like, oh, that's how they perceive, that's how they process. I need to do something different. It's not on them. So I think we are at this, like I said, crossroads is a kind of a good way to think of it. We can do different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I see both of those things. I was just telling someone yesterday about how it's so much easier to train or to support communication partners that are kids because they just focus on that social connection, right? They don't see it as work. They're just like, oh, let's just talk and let's play and let's do
Mhm.
all of the things that are naturally fun for us. And and then they latch onto it and they still want to help. It's just this wonderful thing. It's really it's harder, I think, in some capacities to help adults come
It
along to
is.
some of these ideas than kids. They just grab onto it and go. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I'm still learning every day about the GLP stuff too. It's just once you open the box, you can't close it.
Mhm. Mhm. And I
So,
love it when people say, you know what? I think so and so. Is like, yep, 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 yep. So I think I see it spreading. So that's good.
yeah, yeah, for sure, in a good way. And so we've had a lot of discussions about GLP on the podcast. We've had a lot of people on the podcast, Cheryl,
Mhm. Mhm.
over 30, as you mentioned. Do you have a
Mhm.
favorite episode or topic that we've touched on in these 3 seasons?
Oh, I love them all. I'm not sorry we've done any of them. I've not been disappointed in any of them. I have to say, probably the one that tickles my heart the most is it's the end of last year, so it's about a year ago, that I got to interview a student that I have known since he was in kindergarten. He's currently a student here. And so we did an interview with him and we did a separate interview with his mom. And that to me was just a really nice way to get to know him, get to know the family, get to know about his AAC, use and needs, but then also just to see him get excited about, communicating. So I have to say that was one of my that I did favorites. You've done several that I've, of course, you've people that we've talked to, or it's that personal connection that we've had with people that's been so good too.
I love the interview too. Your one with Isaiah was like top for me just because I love like the connection piece of that and his humor and his style, and then hearing his mom brag on him. Like it was just all the things pulled into that. But I also really loved the one you did with Jane Odom and just kind of your guys' connection because it goes outside, outside the walls of just an interview and the connections she made, the difference that she made in the AAC community. So
Yeah,
that
no, that
was a
was my
big one.
PRC days. We Jane and I, got to know each other, and yeah, I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Any other special moments that you can think of as far as that stand out?
Well, as far as nowadays, what I really appreciate is when people tell us that, oh, I love that interview, or oh, I've listened to that, or yeah, and it's like, oh, I feel so good. We are doing so much with just making it available to people on their schedules, and I really get a kick out of it when somebody lets me know that they've listened and they've done a quiz. I see the quizzes that come in, and people get the continuing ed. That's my special thing, is that we do get that feedback. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting to see which episodes kind of hit home for people too, just getting
Mhm.
that feedback. Ones you're like, oh my gosh, this one has taken off. And everybody,
Mhm.
which helps us too, to say, okay, maybe we really need to focus on this as a department
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
hone in on
Mhm.
this topic. Like the s'mores one we did with Jill and Matt, and just talking about
Mhm.
how, okay, implementation in the classroom, like let's dive in more. So next year, we're actually a little teaser for everyone. We're going to be doing an entire season on literacy and AAC, and I'm so excited. We already have some interviews lined up, and you and I have had many sidebar conversations about
Mhm.
how important literacy is, and thinking about whether it be comprehensive literacy for all, or how do we teach phonics to someone who's not speaking or has complex needs, like what does that look like? And so we're going to do an entire season on it, and I just can't wait. I'm gonna not cry, but like it's gonna feel bittersweet because it's gonna feel so strange not having you, Cheryl. So
It's going to be different.
it's different. But what lies ahead for you? Tell our listeners, what's on the horizon for Cheryl Livingston.
Well, I consider this a change of jobs. I don't consider this really retirement. I appreciate the fact that I can retire, but I want to do a private practice. I want to, work with kiddos and get to do more stuff like that. I have to say though, Laura, it's funny because I'll be like, oh, I could go work there. Oh, I could work there, and it's like I thought the idea was to not work as so much, or not to be on a schedule. I think that's the flexible part is what I'm after, but that's my plan. So I'm going to continue with all, I mean, I said, beef up all the kind of supports, resources that I create. I want to do more of that. I want to share that on my Facebook page. I've got a Teachers Pay Teachers store already, so I want to load that up. So yeah, I enjoy the creativity and knowing that I can just hand somebody something and then they can, feel successful.
And we know there's a need there. Like, we know that there are people out there that will benefit from that, as they've always already benefited from your knowledge and your resources and all the things you create, whether it be from Hobby Lobby to just your mind and your implementation strategies.
Dollar Tree. Don't forget the Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree too. Yes. We cannot forget. Like, I mean, if this podcast was sponsored by Dollar Tree.
It should be. It would be $1.25 that they would contribute, but it would be yeah.
Oh yeah, true. It's $1.25 tree now. Okay, well, as hard as it is to kind of wrap this up, I am going to ask you the question that we ask everybody, and that is, what is your favorite AAC moment to date, Cheryl?
Well, okay, I've got a couple. Way back, beginning of time, my time. I, again, started with PRC. We went to what they called the Pittsburgh Employment Conference. So it was in Pittsburgh, but the idea was to bring together individuals that used AAC. So again, picture a room, a conference center, ballroom, that kind of setting. That's what that was. It was people did presentations and then they would have like a town hall and stuff. But a room, section of this hotel full of individuals using, and back then, guys, remember, it was liberators, it was Delta talkers, it was, I always feel like people are like, oh, that was so hard. It's like, but those were the guys that were successful, and they were they had conversations about anything and everything, just like you and I converse, Laura. I mean, it was no difference whatsoever. And that was my first, or one of my many mind blows. It was like, oh my gosh, this works. This is wonderful. I remember being in a van. We were going to Bruce Baker's house to something else or whatever. And, it was pitch black. It was dark. And an individual was using their liberator based on, again, that motor planning. And they had red lights that they followed, but they could not see those symbols. They couldn't, but we were having a conversation. It wasn't, just me asking a question and them answering. It was a two-way conversation. So that's when I was like, oh yes, this is it. And I have since then felt like a missionary trying to spread the word. So that was really very, very impactful. And then I would say another, and it's again a student who he's currently at VSP right now. So I've known him since he was little bitty. It's the idea, and it happened several times, that when his system needed something, whether it was something needed to be added or something wasn't right, he would tell his SLP, call Miss Cheryl. And so that was and it was with his speech intelligibility was tough, but that came across, and he would let her know that I needed to be there to help. And so that definitely touches my heart, that he thought of me as part of his people, and I was somebody that, made a difference. So that's my two big ones.
Well, on behalf of the district, thank you for making a difference here, and thank you for making a difference for me and for everyone that you work with. I know that your insight and your passion and the way that you care about both the students and your staff that you support, like it shines through. So again, I'm not gonna cry. So if you don't know, I can't remember if I've said it yet, but I'm actually pregnant. So I'm already emotional. And so anywho, we just want to thank you, Cheryl, because it's been you're a treasure, and it's been such a blessing to have you here, and just it's part of our lives and my life.
I appreciate you telling that. And I feel it. I know it. And when I get to tell people that, I'm going to just do different things, people have been very kind. So that's the advantage of retiring, not just quitting one day. You get to tell people, you get to have your farewell tour. So I do feel it. And I'm very proud of my work, and I'm very proud of the fact that I have hopefully influenced a lot of people and helped a lot of families.
Well, and maybe we can have you back and you can give us an update on private practice at some point. I think everybody would love that, myself
Great.
included. So, all right, for Innovative AAC Solutions, we just want to thank Cheryl for everything that she's done. And this is us signing off for this week. Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston. I'll see you later.
Catch you next time.
Hi guys, it's Cheryl. I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to take a quick look at Practical AAC. At the beginning of the podcast, Laura and I both had fun finds that we found on Practical AAC. So I wanted to make sure you had a chance to get a little more information about it if you weren't already familiar with it. Practical AAC has been around at least since 2014. It may even be like 2013. And this person here, Carol Zangari, started doing this blog with her friend Robin Parker, who we have lost. And they just took it upon themselves to dig and find and generate resources that they could easily post and share with everybody. So it has been for me, a lifesaver because I can go to one place and find all kinds of information. And that is very precious when, everybody's time is limited. So let's look at it. It's practical. So it's PRAAC AAC.org. Practical. So AAC is in the word practical, AAC.org. So it's constantly, being updated. It's a blog. So when you go, you're going to get the most recent posts, but you can dig down and find even more from way, way back. So what I'm looking at right now is their main screen, and the featured posts are scrolling across there. So I can scroll down and look at featured post. I can look at videos of the week, all the latest. So let's kind of do it this way. Also, I can work our way across the top here. So if I go to practical thinking, it's giving me all the posts chronologically. So most recent on the top, and then as you scroll down, you've got the older post. So all kinds of information. I want to scroll all the way down, and you can see, if I eventually get there, you can go to you're going backwards. So page 1, page 2, all the way up to page 214. So like I said, there's a lot of information here. But when you click on a post, let's go to the one here about, go to most recent. It could be that it's what they call a link up, which means that they're taking you, or giving you a chance, I should say. They've shared links with you, giving you a chance to go look at all different kinds of things. It's not just a blog post, it's maybe a website that some of these products are connected with. So, for example, there's a top one here is AAC Camp Alberta. So if I go there, they're linking me to the University of Alberta and talking about their AAC camp. If I go back, if I want to look at interactive ways of using AAC, to YouTube of a video that was shared. If I go on down to my communication purse, then it's going to take me to Super Duper. And this is a little purse that they sell. So it's a nice way every week, next every Tuesday, they, just like I say, they call it the AAC link up. So it's every thing that comes up, I guess, during that previous week. So that was their link up one. And if I go on down, there's AAC online learning, 5 free courses to explore, and that's what Laura was sharing with us on the fun find. If I keep scrolling down, there's going to be videos. So let me go back up for a second because I want to talk about that video. If you scroll across here, it's video of the week. So if you just have, and I am definitely advising everybody to take advantage of drive time and time that maybe you're working on something, but it's not something you have to concentrate on. I can't really listen to a web webinar or podcast and do too much thinking. But if I'm doing stuff that I don't have to think about, I could be listening to something in the background and gaining all kinds of information. So if I've got a few minutes, I want to click on something. These are things that I would often find myself just exploring, see what's here. So we've got Video of the Week, AAC for students with visual challenges. So when you go there, they've linked you to the video, and then you can take advantage of a conference or a webinar that was presented to a different group, but it's being shared here. This was actually from the Wisconsin Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and it gives us a chance to gain all that information. I'm going to go back. Helping parents model AAC at home, all kinds of topics. So I want you to always be going back here and looking and seeing. Also should say, just as a reminder, that they have a Facebook page. I'm pretty sure they have an Instagram page. I'm not positive. I know I follow them on Facebook. So they will then alert you when things have been added on Facebook as well. Let's go to also just, other ways you can use it. If you go to the website, and let's say I'm going to see, well, what do you got on Pod? I put in the word pod, and then it's got 97 search results for pod. So there's some videos, there's articles, and again, some are real recent, some are older. But I want you to know that if there's things, topics, strategies, things that you want to look into more, you can always search the site as well. So I can't tell you how many times I use it in a week's time, or something comes up and I'm getting ready to present. This is a lot of times where I'm going. If I'm looking to met with the team and they've asked some questions and need more information, this is where I go to gather what's been shared in various places, but it's one place that you can go. So it's a one-stop shop. Let's think of it that way. But I'm very thankful that they have given us so much of their time to put all this stuff together, because it's priceless. Let us know if you have any questions.
Hey guys, for this week's innovative activity, we actually have this little toy cash register, and this is available in the IRC. There's a lot of different cash registers that you could either purchase or look to obtain, or just the concept of having a little store in general that things can be purchased can be a really, really functional skill for so many learners. This one, I will preface, is a little geared towards younger individuals. There's 4 settings and ABCs, a 1, 2, 3 multiplication, and then this little game, which doesn't really work unless you have the right accessories that are supposed to go with this, because it's asking you to count the number of items that would be in the store. So note that the one that we have in the IRC is geared towards younger individuals, and just kind of the overall sound of it. I would probably, if I was using this and checking it out, I would probably turn off the sound and take out the batteries, because I do find it a little over the top. But what's cool about it is that it's green, so you can't quite see it on my green screen, but you've got a little scale here that you can weigh things. You've got a barcode scanner, and then you've got a scale over here on the other side as well. And then it does multiplication. It identifies numbers. It identifies letters. The letters I probably wouldn't utilize because it's set up like a dial tone for a phone. And how often are people seeing that these days? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but just kind of some things to note. But what I would use it for when it comes to language is all the opportunities to use both core and phrase-based language opportunities, so that the individuals can. Playing. There it is. Bye-bye. And that's why I would turn off the sound. But the idea behind a cash register and the idea behind purchasing something, behind buying something, we can use core vocabulary like get, make. We need to make money, right? And then we get to buy things. And what could we buy? We could buy things to eat. We could buy things to wear. We could buy things to drink. We could buy things to play with. These are things that we can use core vocabulary to target while targeting monetary ideas and exchanges, and kind of doing it in an interactive, hands-on way. I know a lot of older individuals have in classrooms have set up stores or coffee carts and just worked on that same concept. So feel free to take these language strategies and apply them to those opportunities. But if you're working on phrases, right, we can do how much does it cost? Can I help you with that? I need to give you change. This is a great buy. What a great sale. Like these are things we're hitting all our pragmatic functions, right? We're requesting, we're asking questions, we're clarifying, we are commenting. You can work on just, positive exchanges too, right? Where we're closing a conversation. So see you next time. Have a great day. These are really great things that we can target all while having a cash register, whether it be a toy or whether it be something a little more practical for an older student who's working on some community skills to kind of work towards gainful employment. I just want to encourage you guys to get out there, use a communication device for those language opportunities and exchanges, and just support that process. So the cash register, this one is specifically available for checkout in the IRC.